Hello, I am Leanne Fector with the American Military University. Today I am presenting Does the U.S. Protect Species for the Sake of the Species or for Human Use? To EVSP 508 Environmental Ethics, Summer 2019. The United States has been creating acts for the protection of species since 1918 with the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. Since then, the U.S. has created many other acts to protect animals, to include the Magnuson-Stevens Act, Endangered Species Act, and the Marine Mammal Protection Act. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Fisheries Service, Regional Fishery Management Councils, and Marine Mammal Commission are the federal agencies that implement and enforce the regulations under these acts. I was motivated to do this research because growing up in a rural area, hunting and fishing were big recreational pastimes. Magnuson-Stevens Act first passed in 1976 and falls under the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Fisheries Service along with the Regional Fishery Management Councils. It was passed to foster long-term biological and economic sustainability of marine fisheries. It includes regulations on overfishing stocks, what gear may be used by the fishers, licensing observers on board boats, along with times and zones to fish. This act is shallow ecology ethics because humans can continue fishing. Endangered Species Act was first passed in 1973 and falls under the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services and National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Fisheries Service. This act requires federal agencies to ensure their activity doesn't interfere or jeopardize the existence of a listed species or destroy or severely modify habitat of the species. It also includes no taking of listed species along with no importing, exporting interstate or foreign commerce of listed species. There are also regulations that cover habitat conservation and recovery along with how Native American tribes can use the species in their culture. The U.S. government usually adds the species to the list after it becomes endangered or threatened, and not before, so that is shallow ecology. The land ethics comes into play with the allowance for Native American tribes to use the species in their culture and art. Migratory Bird Treaty Act was first passed in 1918 and falls under the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It makes it illegal to take, possess, import, export, transport, sell, purchase, or barter any migratory bird along with parts of the bird, including eggs or nests, unless the person has a valid federal permit. There are regulations on how to apply for a permit. The regulations specify which species are migratory and protected by the Act. This Act is shallow ecology ethics because the Act protects the birds up until the birds become a problem for humans. Marine Mammal Protection Act was first passed in 1972 and falls under the NOAA Fisheries, U.S. Fish, Wildlife Services, and Marine Mammal Commission. It was the first legislation to mandate an ecosystem-based approach to marine resource management. This act established optimum sustainable populations instead of maximum of sustainable yield. It regulates the taking of marine mammals along with export of the species. There are exceptions for scientific study in Alaska natives. This act is land ethic along with social ecology because along with protecting the mammals, the act helps preserve enough of the population to ensure that the ecosystem is not destroyed. This may include protecting the food the mammal eats to ensure population stock is sustained. In researching these acts, the U.S. government's approach to environmental ethics is very much an anthropocentric view. Some of the regulations seem to skirt biocentric viewpoints, but most of the regulations or acts still allow for what is best for humans than for the animals. Capitalism drives the need of humans above the well-being of the species. All but the Marine Mammal Protection Act didn't include the protection of the habitat of the species until recently. These acts have a far way to go before protecting the species for their own sake, not for the sake of humans.